Pearson's there, Billy in. The goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life. Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
In Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to a sneaky midweek version of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. Should we be at work? Maybe. Should we be talking about town? Absolutely. I'm Matt Shaw, it's my day off, and with me, who set the juice loose about this hoose? It's Bradle Juice himself, Brady Frost. You all right, Brady?
I'm good, Matt, and just in case my employers are listening, this is on my lunch break, so this is my time, and I spend it recording a podcast with you.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought you had a meeting. It's not really. It is during right. So I was wondering, were you old enough to get the reference there for the juice loose about the hoose?
Is that a soft drink ad?
It was an old advert for some wine gums. Yeah. There we go. Show my age. Anyway, what ages very well as well, Brady, as you know, is Magic Rock Brewing, of course, and they sponsor this wonderful podcast. Use our code of AHTTC10 to get 10% off all online orders at magicrockbrewing.com. And also, a little bit of news as well. The reason why we're doing this today is, or one of the main reasons, is that Magic Rock have helped us purchase some new streaming software. So thankfully, there's going to be no more of that shithousery from Wirecast. And we can now stream in peace. And maybe, who knows, we'll bring back some of the live shows that a couple of people have been asking about. You can't have everything all at once. But there we go. Right, Brady. Sunderland. So Huddersfield Town on the back of a little bit of a disappointing result, really, against Swansea in some respects. The unbeaten run went, and then we went to Sunderland, which looked like another tough fixture on paper as well, didn't it? I think one thing I want to mention before we get into the actual game itself was pre-match, I went to the Sunderland Fans Museum, and a mate of mine was like going, "Oh, I've been told that we should go to the Fans Museum," and you kind of think, "What, a Fans Museum? What on earth?" You think, "What's all that about?" But honestly, it was fantastic, and Huddersfield Town could really do with something similar. You go into this old museum, and there are several little rooms, and all dotted around is Sunderland memorabilia everywhere. You can obviously buy drinks in there, beers, etc. There's live music outside. And you can have pictures with replicas of playoff trophies, Johnston Paint trophies. There was even like on a mannequin down one of the corridors, a 1973 replica Sunderland suit from the FA Cup final. I thought it was an amazing place. As a football fan, I was really sort of blown away, and I just thought, you know what, it would be amazing if Huddersfield Town had something like this, because we've not really had anything, have we, since Canalside went. All those years ago, since the Premier League, have we? But I think it would be a fantastic if we could get something like that, Brady. You'd go, wouldn't you? Obviously we'd go to Magic Rock as well. But
yeah, definitely. What are you putting in there? Are you putting in the broom from Dizzy penalties? Are you putting in the massive Terry the Terrier head? I'd want the weird stuff as well as the,
I'd want the old Terry the Terrier. Do you know? Have you seen Ted, the film Ted?
Yeah.
A long time ago, we've seen the bit where he gets the stuffing removed and they put the stuffing back in, and he pretends to be all sort of like misshapen and what have you. And I think the first Terry the Terrier that reminds me of that scene from Ted from the 1990s would be fantastic. Just walking around and I just got like bumbling around. But yeah, I'd definitely have that. I would have. I don't know where you could have it. Maybe the golf range, the driving range. I think the hotel's fallen through, hasn't it? So you could have a really decent fan zone there, and you can have like the indoor bit. You could have games for the kids in one thing. You could even have a football cage. You could have all sorts going on in there, and drinks, food vendors, memorabilia, the stuff that the Billy Smith stuff could potentially be in there. I don't know if that's a bit expensive maybe to be in there, but you could certainly get replicas. You could have paintings, drawings, all sorts on the walls, and just make it feel like a home. Because at the minute, I think post match probably feel a bit homeless. Do you think, Town fans? I know people have their little routines of pubs. The Vulcan's good in town, and Rat and Ratchet, etc., and all the other stuff. Magic Rock, of course. But I think something next to the stadium would be a good place to go after Magic Rock, of course, wouldn't it? Something like that. But for me, it's stuff like that. I loved going to Canal Side back in the day. So for me, it'd be decent. I know Cos would be on board as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know we've talked about this quite a bit on both our pods, and this is a great start to the Sunderland preview, in my opinion. I love talking about stuff like this. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of like build it and it will come. Do you know what I mean? I do think people
you do get old references.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, for me, if you give people a reason to stick around, I think that's the thing with Town, and that end of town, it's a bit out of the way. I think if you did have a good bar in there, some stuff to do with for families, people would stay around. I think there's not a lot of incentive to stay around unless you're going to get a Costa or you're off to see a film, and I don't know many people who go and watch a film straight after the Town game. So yeah, it'd be great to have some more stuff down there. I'm not saying we need to suddenly do what Tottenham have done, and like build an incredible stadium, but it'd be nice to have a few things down there.
I don't know. Cosy wanted the North Stand knocking down and rebuilding the other day. So
yeah, I mean, let's not get into that because that was a bit interesting. But yeah, I think speaking of Cosy, you talked about that supporters bar, and you're kind of touching on it with the museum.
I'm going to say Cosy's a raging chest, isn't he, when it comes to rugby league, and he goes to Headingley to Leeds Rhinos, and you go to Headingley. I went for the World Cup games, and they have like tables and chairs. The concourses are bigger than at Huddersfield, so they have like tables, absolutely, chairs, and TVs and all sorts, and it's quite a friendly spot. So yeah, he gets that. And where was it he went as well? And he was absolutely buzzing with it as well. Stoke, wasn't it?
Stoke one. Stoke, yeah. But I can see that. I mean, the thing is, like, we've got messages on the pod account, or if I've been on a opposition podcast or whatever, they're like, oh, is there anywhere close that we can go and watch the 5:30 game, or can we go watch the 12:30 game? And if you had like a supporters bar that was open to people to come and do that, again, it's giving people a reason to stick around, like spend more money, I'd be well up for it. But I think people know we'd be well up for some stuff around the ground.
Yeah, I think you'd have to throw the Huddersfield Giants in there as well, wouldn't you? Because opening a bar next to a stadium where nobody goes financially might not be the best. You've seen the Gas Club. What's happened to the Gas Club? And financially might not be the best thing. But I guess you can kind of open it once a week then if the Giants come, and then it goes over the summer as well. So there are little things whereby you can maybe get things in there and a few more events maybe at the stadium, and then it could snowball. But something for the new owners to think about, isn't it? But right, Brady, I can hear the voices listening to the podcast now going, talk about the football, you twats. But so let's talk about the football. Sunderland. I've not been to Sunderland since 1998 when it was new, when I got the supporters coach up as a youngster, if you like, and Paul Dalton scored, and I missed the goal because I went to the bar, went to get a drink, and then because we were useless that day, Vince Bartram made his debut and came tearing out a goal and got lobbed, and then we'd looked like absolutely nothing. Went back downstairs. Paul Dalton went on a brilliant, mazy run, scored a great goal, and then walked back up, and we never went in there half again. That half of Michael Bridges destroyed us. So that was fun, but. Yeah, so Sunderland, the stadium itself, I think Sunderland Stadium is great. I really do. The museum, the stadium itself, there's just little things in there which were quite good. It's quite a walk up the steps. It's not quite Newcastle-esque, but you kind of go up to the top, and there's like little one-liners on the wall as you're going up. Like the first one is like, this is 9 steps for a normal human, or 1 if you're Peter Crouch, and just little cheesy things like that up there, which just kind of give you a little smile there. And I kind of liked the whole atmosphere around. And you saw Cosy's video, didn't you, where people coming out. Cosy had a freebie, didn't he, from work, so he was down in the bottom tier. He was too scared to go in the upper tier. We'll have to get that in for him. So he'd like taken a video of like the music going in there. I think there's Is it Republica? And then the entrance music, and like we say, it's the Charlie Methven's legacy, isn't it, from Sunderland Till I Die? But it was just a really good, and it just felt like a really good place to go watch football, did Sunderland, with everything. And when you go watch Huddersfield, there's a lot of people like me just sort of turn up 5 minutes before kickoff and they're straight off. You know what I mean? And with Sunderland, you can sort of see the attraction of staying around the bars and what have you. And I just sort of like that for Huddersfield, just to roll that up. But in terms of the game, there was a bit of a surprise, wasn't there? Jonathan Hogg not there due to injury. He'd looked a little bit ropey, didn't he, against Swansea, I think, in terms of his movement. So I'm not sure if he was carrying something into the game, into that Swansea game. But, you know, in came David Kasumu, moved in field. And David Kasumu, mate, was somebody who I honestly, I got 2 messages. One of them was from Josh Phillips. I won't name the other person because it's slanderous. One of them was from Josh Phillips, who said he thought Kasumu was brilliant, you know, one of our contenders for man of the match. And then the other one was, I don't understand what David Kasumu does. He didn't do anything. And it was so funny to see the sort of the level, from what one person saw to the other person. I respect both opinions massively. And so let's start with David Kasumu, because obviously Sunderland's first goal, he was partly culpable, would you say? The goalkeeper was so lucky. I felt Sunderland was so lucky with the breaks of the ball. Every time they shanked something, it seemed to go straight to one of their players and set them on a counter-attack. And this was another one, wasn't it? The goalkeeper shanks it. It could have gone anywhere. It could have gone to someone to put it in the empty net. It didn't. It went to one of their players. And then David Kasumu kind of threw himself in and left that huge space for them to run into. And then Joe Gelhardt, who's not really set the world alight up at the Stadium of Light, scores with a good goal. It's a good finish in it. But how did you see Kasumu's performance? Because I thought he started brilliantly, faded a bit, and then came on quite strong at the end.
Kasuma's an interesting one. I completely agree with you. Obviously, you could say he's at fault for the goal, but I think for that game, partly you could. I think that's if you're being really harsh, but we've seen under Warnock, and I've kind of gone on to Kasuma, but I actually think we've defended quite well under Warnock for quite a big section of his reign. Obviously, he had the Burnley and the Coventry game, but since then we've kind of tightened up. And I agree with you that goal comes from from them shanking it. I think if that actually is not a mistake and it's kind of like a free for all, we'd probably set ourselves up better to defend that. So I don't think you can really blame Kasumu for that. Kasumu's performance, it's an interesting one because when he signed, we were thinking he's probably not a direct Lewis O'Brien replacement, but there's some similarities in his game and what he can bring to the midfield. And I think you touching on the performances, people's opinions in terms of, I thought he was really good, or I don't understand what he brings. That's kind of how I feel like him. For me, it's not what I expected him to be. I think he does a lot of good defensive work. Yeah, he does a lot of good defensive work. Isn't he? Yeah, definitely. And he does a lot of good defensive work. And I think, the Watford game, for example, where he's getting moved to right back, he's in the he's in the midfield, he's playing right winger defensively at one point. I think actually he can do that really well. But then I think it was the Blackburn game, and he just can't pick out a pass sometimes under pressure. And he's not that player.
11% passing accuracy that game. It was
exactly. So I think that kind of sums it up. But look, he's a young player who's playing in the Championship for the first time coming from League One. I think there's some things in there that he can improve on. And to be honest, I know you can make excuses for this, but we are talking about playing a lot of games in a short space of time. I know that's the Championship, but I have the feeling, a bit like we've seen with Redoni and his improvement, I actually think Kasumu, with a season of Championship games, fingers crossed we're still in the Championship next season, but I actually think you'll see a lot of improvement from him because he's one of the players I look at. Same with Redoni. You look at Diarra as well. There's potential. This feels like if you can work with them and coach them, you could really see them flourish. And that's kind of how I feel with Kasumu. I think that sums up his season. Like you say, you're talking about that Sunderland game. There were some good bits. There were some not so good bits. But ultimately, when the game finishes, you're like, still think there's something there. Still think there's something we can work with.
I'll touch on that incident for me. If Jonathan Hogg's in Kasumu's position, that goal doesn't happen because Jonathan Hogg holds the midfield, and then we're a bit deeper. But having said that, I thought we were very enterprised, and I thought we were very good in the opening 25 minutes. I thought we really threatened. I thought Jaheim Headley did really well down the left. His end ball wasn't quite perfect. Probably a bit nervous. Looked a little bit nervous, didn't he? But he's playing in front of those. The crowd was announced 37,000, probably about 25 in there, to be honest. But that's a big crowd for someone that's been playing mostly at Harrogate, this season. And
Yeah, even made
so
10 appearances, has he?
yeah. So, but we'll talk maybe about Headley a little bit later. But I thought we made a really good start, and I thought the reason why we're allowed to do that is because Kasumu was in midfield rather than Hoggy. Because I think what you get with Jonathan Hogg is because he's slowed down somewhat now and it's trade-offs really. It's not a criticism or a promotion of one or the other. It's just the trade-offs which happens with a game. With Jonathan Hogg, what you get is that increased defensive solidity in front of the back line. You get somebody who can organise others around him, bollock them a lot, but you get that leader in there, and sometimes I feel like if Hoggy's on the pitch, others feel a little bit assured by it. I know it's probably a silly thing to say, but you just sort of you look at the way the others react around him, and I think you feel a little bit more secure with him there. Whereas when he's not, I think when we looked at when Hoggy wasn't in the side when Fotheringham first came, and we looked all at C, didn't we, in midfield, and it took Jonathan Hogg coming back in for us to just look a little bit more solid in there. But Kasumu in and Kasumu's speed at being able to move forward, move up and down the lines, allowed us to sort of stand 10, 15 yards higher and allowed us to get more of a foothold in the final third. It was just interesting to see that it allowed us to maybe come up with a different approach. And, I'm not saying one's right and one's not, because it could have been a completely different game if Hogg's in there and we may have won. But it's just quite interesting to see what each different player allows. And I suppose what you can take from that is that you can tailor your approach depending on which player that you pick now, which is more that I was trying to do. And I think if we're going to look at individuals, Brahima Diarra was a really interesting performance, wasn't he? He was both thrilling and frustrating in sort of equal measure, wasn't he? It was sort of strange. On the ball, running with the ball, he was phenomenal, wasn't he? And we talked a lot on this podcast about what Lewis O'Brien brought in terms of his dribbling and being able to, Huddersfield have struggled a lot this season in being able to transition from the first third to the final third. And it's because they've not had anyone, because we can't pass our way out. We've never been able to particularly pass our way out efficiently. So what we had last year is we had Lewis O'Brien running from the edge of one box to the edge of the other with the ball 80 times in the season, I think it was. And that allows us to get from one end to the other. And that's kind of what Brahima Diarra brought on Tuesday. They gave him the ball and he went past 2 or 3 players, got to the edge of the Sunderland box, and then gave a really simple pass away. And it was like thrilling yet frustrating. But there's excitement there with him, isn't there? There's something different, and something really. He brings a completely, like I said, talk about Kasumu. Diarra brings a completely different dynamic. And at 19, the potential he's got, if he can lift his head and start picking passes, it could be quite frightening, really, isn't it? But I suppose if he could lift his head, pick passes, stroke the ball in the bottom corner, he's at Man City, isn't he?
Yeah, his performance is really interesting. I know we're having a little chat about him actually after that game, and there is so many elements where, like you say, he's one of those players when he gets on the ball and he's running at people, you're like, oh, go on, like you feel excitement, you feel like something could happen. But his decision making, as you touched on, it's just that, or I can't remember what chance it was, but it gets played in and the touch is just too heavy and the keeper can smother it. But yeah, he's an exciting player. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because, when Warnock came in, you have these preconceptions where he's like, I'm just going to go for leaders, I'm going to bring in experienced lads. And it's actually quite interesting that as his, the more games he's managed, the more he's kind of brought in Headley now and again. He's brought in Diarra now and again because, he's obviously given Warnock something that the team needs. And Diarra, I think, depending on what division we're in, we talked about, not that there is many positives in my opinion to going into League One, but you could see Diarra in League One causing defences trouble because he's doing that in the Championship, occasionally. I think what's encouraging about him is that decision making. I feel that's something you can. It's difficult, but you could certainly coach. Yeah, you could work with it. I think he's got a lot of good elements, and it's just what separates. What kind of makes those players elite is elite is how they go, cold. They're calm and they're relaxed. And I think when Diarra, and this is, like he's not played like 20 games in the Championship. Yeah, it's just experience. It's knowing what to do in those situations. And I think he reminds me of someone who and I imagine if I had the ability to play football, I'd do something really good and then I get a bit excited. And I feel like that's what Diarra does. He he does something great, he does something else great. And you're like, oh, go on, all you need to do is do this. And he just gets a bit carried away. And I think it's encouraging because it looks like you could certainly coach that. It doesn't, if you can just tell him to do the right thing or like you say, get his head up and look at the passes, I feel that's something you can work with. And if our coaching, whoever comes in, if they can nail that, I think we have an incredibly exciting player and someone who could maybe make a real impact in the Championship.
Do you know, I've probably been a bit harsh on him because I've just pulled up whoscored.com and he's actually second in terms of passing accuracy on the day, which is surprising. Really? Yeah, so I'm talking nonsense. His passing accuracy is 73.9%.
I think it's the optics, though, isn't it? It's how it looks.
Yeah, I think it was because he made those runs, didn't he, to the edge of the box, and there were two or three times where there was quite a simple lay-in or a simple pass to, I think it was Koroma a couple of times, just to lay him in, and he kind of passed it behind, which actually goes down as an accurate pass because I think someone had to run back and get the ball and gather the ball. And there was that one where he kind of went in with the keeper, wasn't there, which probably should have gone elsewhere. But like I say, really exciting, and it's good to see him develop as well because there's games where he came on, you cast your mind back to Hull away, where he probably contributed to costing us a point just by his inexperience through trying to run the ball out, in injury time when it just needed kicking in the far corner, didn't it, and things like that. But he is exciting, and I kind of met him after a game. I can't remember when it was. It was a home game, and we went into the club shop and we were just waiting for printing for the little one, his name on the back of the shirt. And he came in to get something with a couple of people and got, spoke to him briefly, got a picture with him. A really nice lad as well. And, you want people like that to succeed, don't you, and do well. So, tip of the hat. I think you could tip your hat, Brady. You're the hat man, aren't you? So you can tip your hat to.
There you go. You can see my awful hat.
Look at that hair.
There you go, listeners. There you go. I think, maybe we're being a bit harsh on him, but I think that the thing I would say is he's certainly got the potential. I think he's an exciting player, and we're not.
He could destroy teams single-handedly, couldn't he? If his career goes the way it could, he could destroy teams by himself. And we're not talking League One teams; we're talking good teams. He could single-handedly rip to shreds out.
Yeah,
and it's exciting.
Definitely.
It's exciting to see young players like that.
It's exciting, and absolutely, and that's why. I know people get a bit funny about this, but that's like you say, that's why he's at Town. He's here to learn, he's here to develop, and something I think we can all be proud of, given some of the bad stuff that's happened this season, is we do actually have a habit of improving young players and turning them for a profit. So
usually not our own, usually other people's young players, aren't we?
Oh yeah. But it'd be nice for a change, wouldn't it?
But one player I want to talk about. Guess who was top of the passing accuracy this game? It'll probably surprise you. This. Just very quickly, without trying to.
Josh Ruffles.
No, Josh Ruffles was 6. Josh Ruffles did all right actually, but no. Matty Pearson. Matty Pearson with 84%. Defenders usually are top, aren't they? Because usually just knock it in field. But I wanted to talk about Matty Pearson because I thought he was phenomenal on the day. I thought he was absolutely unbelievable. I know he was up against Jack Clark, and Jack Clark's done really well for Sunderland. He broke through at Leeds, and he got a move based on one goal, I think. I think Leeds really had the wool over with, how much they got from Spurs for him. But he's gone out on loan a couple of times, not done a lot, and then he's gone to Sunderland, and it's kind of clicked for him. And he's, I think they bought him for like 3-4 million quid, which is still quite a lot. But he's been outstanding for them as Jack Clark, and he was good on the night. He went past Matty Pearson once or twice, but I thought overall Matty Pearson handled him really well. And for me, he was man of the match, Matty Pearson. He was phenomenally good. He put his body on the line a number of times. The amount of blocks Matty Pearson gets through is quite phenomenal. I'm just looking at block shots now. Tom Lee's 4 block shots, to be fair, on the day. But Matty Pearson, I just thought was a machine that day. He's not your modern day right back, is he? He's playing right back at the minute, but he's not someone who you sort of associate with being a modern day right back. Maybe an old school Tony Pulis fullback, if you like, from his West Brom days. But he was, for me, he was great, and he got better as the game went on as well. And Jack Clark's role in the game diminished somewhat as well, and Matty Pearson really got on top of him, and I thought he was outstanding. And when we scored our goal, I thought we were well worth it. It's gone to Josh Koroma, and I think we can't really talk about Josh Koroma, can we, without giving it the old hang on. There we go. It's terrible. We need to improve that sound effect. But Josh Koroma, it's unbelievable, isn't it? The turnaround. We've seen the Josh Koroma from the first Carlos Corberán season, aren't we? Pretty much now. When he picked that ball up, I know he was kind of on the right hand side, but I expect him to get a decent shot and with a strong chance of scoring. And it's taken a little deflection. Maybe we've got the luck on this occasion, and it's looped into the back of the net. But it's kind of what Josh Koroma deserves, isn't it? He's just been phenomenal lately, and he's going, he's going both ways as well at the minute. When he sort of had his lull in form, he was constantly cutting inside and shooting and doing the same thing, and he was so predictable, wasn't he? But now he's going inside, he's going outside, he's coming back, he's holding the ball up, and he looks like he's absolutely full of beans, enjoying himself. He's creative, he's working hard back. Neil Warnock's done a phenomenal job, and it just shows what managers have, or the effect managers have on players, because Josh Koroma was failing at Portsmouth, wasn't he, in the division below, and Danny Cowley's had him twice now, and he didn't do a lot under Danny Cowley the first time at Huddersfield either, and he's had him twice. Carlos Corberán didn't. I think Carlos Corberán fell out with him a little bit because of his lack of work rate coming back. And then he's had, we've had Mark Fotheringham come in, Danny Schofield, and no one's really fancied him. And all of a sudden, Neil Warnock's seen something. The wily old fox has seen something. And we've got this player now who looks like a top-end championship player doing, pulling teams apart, playing right, left, through the middle. And it's a different, well, it's not a different player. It's the one that we thought we had 2 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you highlighted Pearson and Koroma there. And I know Tom was saying with Pearson, and I don't disagree, but, Warnock's come in and done a fantastic job. And, as stressful as it is, our destiny of staying in this division is in our own hands. And, I would have snapped your hand off with 3 games to go with that. But Tom made the point that Pearson, he's as crucial to us, this survival run as much as Warnock is. And I'd also say that with Koroma, like you touched on. And it's no surprise, really. Look at those two players. And, one of the key, it's interesting that they're both absolutely flying. And I think you'd argue when you look at the team sheet, and Thomas Vaslik as well, I'd maybe say like they're probably the 3 consistent performers who are doing well for us. And it's very interesting that they're all, responding well to a manager like Warnock, who's known for his man management and his belief. I think when Koroma burst onto the scene at Leyton Orient, just in Edinburgh, unfortunately passed away, but he was known as a good man manager. And I think it almost, completely changed the topic here, but it almost makes me wonder, if we had Sorba, because I just feel like Sorba's a similar personality where he just, he needs to feel 10 foot tall. And I feel like that's what Warnock's done with Koroma. He's made him feel like, look, I know you can have those moments. And we saw it even under Corberán in the second season. I think of that goal he scored out of the blue against Blackpool in that 3-0 win away. He's one of the few players I think we have who can do something like that. And, it was just the consistency, like you say. But yeah, he's been incredible. And we talked about it, me and Tom, and when we had Stephen on the warm-up, we were saying like, oh, is this just kind of like a contract Koroma? But at this point in time,
Simon, as known in Huddersfield as it's known in Huddersfield as Simon Baldry syndrome. Is that you probably might not remember Simon Baldry? But,
I like Danny Ward's first spell when he scored that hat trick. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't. It doesn't matter at this point. We need to do what we can to survive. And I think, if we do survive, touch wood. But he, for me, he's been the main man, really. You could argue in his last couple of games, and I think it's incredible, and it's always good to see. I think like players who've shown that potential, it comes back, because let's be honest, if this didn't happen, Koroma's career would have ended at Town, and it would have been a shame, really, because we saw those good points. It's kind of, I think we've had a few players like that where they've shown glimpses, but Unfortunately, it's not worked out. I mean, Bakuna is the one that springs to mind for me. But Koroma's, absolutely one of the first names on the team sheet, and deserves to start, and is putting in those killer performances.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well, it's nice to have. We've gone all season with looking so poor, haven't we, in the final third? Because everybody that we had was predictable. It was slow. It was mundane. And now you've got Brahima Diarra. I can't say his name today. You've got Brahima Diarra up there. You've got Josh Koroma, and all of a sudden you've got that unpredictability up there. And all of a sudden you've got players where defenders are worried. Defenders had the pipe and slippers on. Pipe in the mouth, slippers on, didn't they, earlier in the season? Now Josh Koroma's running at you, and Brahima Diarra's doing things, and all of a sudden the opposition have got something to worry about, and that, my friend, is good to see. I have to say a couple of other things as well. The disallowed goal Huddersfield got in the first half was absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks. And I know he blew early, so it may not have quite played out, but I thought the referee was horrendous the whole way through. I thought he gave absolutely everything to Sunderland when he could. I suppose we can be a bit of a niggly team, so there probably were quite a lot of fouls in there, but it was just the sort of consistency which riles you up. There was a few instances where there was barely a touch on a Sunderland player, like on the goal, and he's got his whistle in his mouth, and then Josh Koroma was pulled down out wide, no foul, and there was like Diarra as well, no foul. And it's just that consistency which just riles you, doesn't it, in the away end? And to be fair, I'm up at the back of the away end. I can't quite see fully what's going on, so I might be talking nonsense. But it just felt like he was a bit of a homer on the day, out for an easy night, and it was frustrating. But it was good of the players not to let that really turn it into a thing. And to be fair to the referee, Alex Pritchard, who had a lovely welcome back from Huddersfield fans in the home and away game. Has gone down in the box, and a spineless referee keeps a penalty there. So, fair play to the referees. He's seen Pritchard's dived and he's not given it. So I guess all's well that ends well on that score. But for me, that wasn't a penalty. And the Pritchard stuff, I just look at it as pantomime, to be honest. It wasn't really nasty. It was just, what a waste of money. Although he did get called a banker a couple of times, which I think is understandable given a couple of things maybe that went on. The Alex Pritchard thing is frustrating because I did a couple of things for Sunderland podcast fanzines, etc. And I'm just saying the reason why, because they quite like him up there, and they would say, what's going on with Alex Pritchard? I don't understand why you hate him so much. And it's just like, and the easy way to explain it to them is just to say, look, he's our version of Jack Rodwell, if you like. We brought him in for 11.5 million quid. What was it, 40 grand a week or something? And then he didn't deliver, which is fine. That's not his fault necessarily in the Premier League. He's been signed for the Premier League before and flopped. You know what I mean? It's not really particularly good scouting from Huddersfield. And I felt at the time he was the wrong fit for us as well, I'll be honest. But when we went down, we then expected to see a different Alex Pritchard running games. And instead he was always injured. And there was the incident, I think it was Danny Cowley said that Alex Pritchard's refusing to play because, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he said Alex Pritchard's refusing to play because of the cyst on his knee. And it was more of a psychosomatic injury whereby he felt like he was going to injure it rather than it being injured. So he was very sort of worried about it going when they were trying to sort of say to him, look, it's a cyst, it's not going to tear, it's not going to snap, etc., etc. And then, he was essentially sent home early, wasn't he? At the end of his contract, he was binned off in April. He got sent and told not to bother to come back. And when things like that happen, you just think, oh, it must have been a bad apple. And fans hear that and they think, wow, he's getting paid till June 30th, probably 20 odd grand a week in the Championship, and he's sat there playing on his Xbox and not training or doing anything. It's easy for fans to get resentful, isn't it, and annoyed at that because we'd love to play for, when we were fit and young. Maybe you could still do it, Brady, be centre back and stuff. But we'd have loved to have gone to Huddersfield, and we'd have worked so hard, wouldn't we, if we'd have had that opportunity. So when you see people just kind of go, yeah, whatever, can't be bothered, it frustrates you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'll touch quickly on what you said about the ref and then come on to Pritchard. Ref, for me, bad game, but unfortunately, and I don't want to be one of these, but every every weekend in the Championship, in any fixture, in quite a few fixtures, there's always terrible refereeing decisions. I'm one of these that, like, unfortunately, it's just going to happen. And like you say, Pritchard's going to dive. But, like, look, then that in the home game we had against him, Pritchard scored and shushed everyone. And, like, you know, it's one of them typical.
Pantomime.
Of course he's going to do that. Pantomime. You're exactly right. The thing is, what we should say about Pritchard with that cyst in the knee as well was, you know, he did an interview with The Athletic after he got released with Town, and he said that wasn't true, you know. And I think if Dan Cowley's saying that, if Pritchard's saying that, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. I don't particularly care. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I was like that. I didn't boo him. I wasn't that bothered. Just like,
yeah, to be honest, I think I've said this before on the podcast, so apologies if this annoys listeners, but for me, he was the one that disappointed me the most out of Benza himself and Diarra, because I felt he was the one who could probably come in and hit the ground running the most, and it didn't happen. Look, transfers don't happen. The issue was Huddersfield don't spend 10 million plus on a player just for it to, you know, it has to go right. It just didn't work out. Sometimes it didn't work out. I think there's loads of reasons why we're a bit, but we don't need to go into it. But yeah, I don't care. You know, like, I find it a bit weird, and I'm not saying this is the entire fan base, but, like, you know, people can boo Pritchard. I think you can maybe argue there's more reason, but I wouldn't do it personally. But then people boo Carl Grant, and, you know, like, I know there's reasons for that as well, but he also scored the goals to keep us up. I think people boo, you know, like, fans will always boo players regardless. And I, to be honest, sometimes I don't think it's even necessarily about the player. I think you could even argue with Pritchard potentially, you're criticising him because it says wider about how it's a mismanagement from the club and they've made a wrong decision, you know. I don't know. It's an interesting debate, but I don't care about Pritchard. You know, like, I think he's always going to have an extra incentive to perform well with us, but I don't care about that. I just want Town to win. You know,
I was more interested in singing pro Huddersfield songs than anti
exactly
ones, because you feel like the team need the support, don't you? But it's some, you know, for everyone's different, and sometimes it's just all fun of the fair and pantomime. As long as it doesn't spill over to
absolutely
nasty, then it's all good fun.
Yeah, don't go personal.
And I thought the noise in the away end was really good as well. I think that's. I thought Town fans were excellent on the night. Got behind the team, and they've done that ever since Neil Warnock's come in. And I thought the Town fans are certainly trying to play, or they are playing their part, aren't they now? I thought you could legitimately say they were quite quiet earlier in the season. You can understand why we were crap, you know, and no amount of noise would have probably changed that, to be honest. But I think now, sometimes fans like us forget that it just getting behind them and sort of keep going, that adds that extra 1%, and it can make the difference sometimes. And the players and the support managers do say that. And I think Huddersfield fans are leaving grounds at the minute with their voices hoarse, and you know, it's a credit to Town fans' families is what I'm trying to say there, Brady. So Town fans have been excellent of late, and they deserve a lot of praise. And
absolutely, sorry, Matt, I'm gonna do a cosy here and jump in and ask you a question.
Oh, you're gonna ruin it. Oh, that's fine.
No,
you just ransack the agenda. That's Cozzy's thing.
No.
Cozzy's getting some heat in this. You should have invited him in.
No.
Let's see where he is and invite him.
He's not fragile like myself. That's why.
No, we love Cozzy. The bear.
The question I was going to ask you was, obviously we kind of talked about, because we've got a bit of a break. Obviously, it's like, you know, a week and a half until the Cardiff game, maybe a little bit less now, but. How do you feel with this break now? Do you know, because I know you were a bit worried after the Swans again, and you even made it clear on the pod, but do you feel a bit more positive in between this break? Or I suppose we'll come on to talk about the results from the other teams, but how are you feeling with this gap? Are you nervous, or you feeling a bit more positive?
Yeah, I don't like it. 12. I don't like it. I haven't changed my opinion. It's just circumstance, isn't it? It's not really anyone's fault. Sheffield United got to the semi-final. I would rather be the one who's got points on the board rather than the one chasing, if you like. So we can talk about the other midweek results now if you want. But shall we go to a quick advert and then we'll come back?
Yeah, look at that, giving people a reason to come back. Love it.
Okay. So there's one of those adverts that we have no control over. It's just gone through. So if it's something you don't agree with, nothing I can do about that apart from start paying for stuff again. Right. So midweek. So yeah, you asked me about the 12-day gap, and yeah, I don't like it just because of what I said about, Huddersfield Town. I prefer to set the pace. And I think pressures are different as well. I think the pressure's different when you're having to get points than you are sort of pushing as well. I don't really think the Town players themselves react much differently one way or the other. It's me who reacts differently. You know what I mean? I prefer to have that cushion before going to the game, but it's going to be awkward. And this Saturday will tell us a lot. QPR, Burnley have pissed me right off lately. They are really pissing me off, honestly. They've absolutely whacked everyone all season, and now it's come to the end, and some companies dicking about and giving points to Rotherham and Reading, and I'm just like, fuck's sake, Burnley. You know what I mean? And so, can we trust Burnley on Saturday? Probably not. They're playing QPR, aren't they? So that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're playing, because I haven't looked, but I think they're playing QPR. And Reading, are they away at Coventry? Are those the two results?
They are. So I've got them on screen like a good little assistant that I am. Yeah, so Burnley are playing QPR at home, Cardiff are playing Stoke at home, and Coventry are playing Reading at home.
I mean, Cardiff have gone above us. Cardiff have gone above us. Stoke lost to Wigan the other day, so Stoke are a funny team. I think they've tuned out maybe a little bit in some respects. So I expect Cardiff to win that and continue, but that might not be a bad thing. I think Cardiff got 3 games in 6 days, maybe, if I'm wrong. But part of me is thinking, do you know what? I would not hate Cardiff to win 2 of those. I think Rotherham away is one of them. If Cardiff win both of those, then they're safe by the time we go there on Sunday. And that might not be the worst thing in the world, a Cardiff win. I know it decreases the chances of going down because it makes it less teams in it, but I'm still looking at Reading and QPR, and I'm hoping QPR just implode, to be honest. But QPR have got these 2 games are fine, because I expect and hope, touch wood, that Reading and QPR lose on Saturday. And if they do, it's not too bad. We can breathe a little bit easier, can't we? We've got a little bit less pressure, and hopefully when we go to Cardiff, it's not too bad. But I expect we'll be in the bottom 3 by the time we go to Cardiff, due to the following weekend as well. I think Reading beat Wigan the week after. I can't see any other result, but Reading, I think, is it Reading versus Wigan? One of them has Wigan.
Yeah, Reading.
So Reading, I think, have Wigan, don't they? I can't see anything but a Reading win there. And then QPR have got another difficult one, haven't they? Second to last. I think they've got Bristol City at home on the last day, haven't they? Which is winnable. But I think they've got another slightly difficult one, haven't they? Second to last, which you're going to tell me what it is now.
Got Bristol last game of the season, and then their next results, they are playing. I think they've only got 3 games left. They're playing Stoke.
Stoke, right? So Stoke. I mean,
Stoke away.
You don't know what's going to happen with Stoke there. QPR could win that game, and if QPR win that game, Reading beat Wigan, where we are needing really to beat one of Cardiff and Sheffield United. I think we have to win one of those 2 games. Oddly, I'm looking at Sheffield United and wondering, and we've had this conversation, I'm looking at that thinking, Sheffield United are obviously the second best team in the league, no qualms about that. They're actually one of the top form teams in the league at the minute as well, which is highly frustrating. But if they're in second, can't do any better than second just after an FA Cup semi-final, is that a good time to play them? I know there's never a good time to play Sheffield United in terms of this league, but that might be as good as it gets in terms of playing them. And then Town are having to play 3 games in the last week, aren't they? Which in 8 days, which a little bit tricky. So will we be leggy for Reading? I'm not sure. Will we get momentum? I'm not sure. But one thing I want to avoid is having a shootout with Reading and being the team in the bottom 3 going into that final game. For me, I would just love us to just beat Cardiff and Sheffield United and then have that Reading game with our feet up. You know what I mean? But it's gonna go right to the end. It's looking like it could potentially be a shootout between us and Reading, and we might need to beat Reading on the last game of the season to stay up. And I don't like it because people like me and Cozzy, we've got PTSD from that Birmingham game in 2001 where everything transpired against us in the last week to send us down. I think we got Last 3 games, I think we got 2 draws. We needed 3 points from 3 games or something, and we got 2. We got a draw, loss, and it was upsetting, and it took us 11 years to get back up.
Well, I'm gonna, because I feel like, and especially on the Monday pod after the Swansea game, I think you brought the negativity, Matt. It was fair, or the pessimism. It was fair to say. So I'm going to bring some optimism. Burnley are playing at home against QPR on Saturday, and
I still don't trust them.
I think but I think they'll play a strong team because I think they'll win the title. If they win that game, and that's at home. So I think they'll win that. Coventry getting that 96th minute equaliser with the goalkeeper against Blackburn. I love stories like that. They've got something to go in for against the Reading game. So I can't see Reading winning that, but I could maybe see it being a draw. And then you look at obviously Rotherham Cardiff. This is a question actually, and you touched on it because we'll bring in some of the listener questions. But we've got a question from Gazbrads9, which said, would you rather Cardiff win the next 2 and then they be safe by the time we play them, or them lose both and we battle it out, both teams, everything to play for? For me, like I said to you, I actually feel more confident playing Sheffield United because I think our style under Warnock suits a team who's going to come at us, whereas I think it might be very cagey with Cardiff. So personally, I think Rotherham are safe anyway. I'm not even including them in this relegation shootout. So I'd actually like Rotherham to beat Cardiff, and I'd like Cardiff to lose against Stoke, just because I think that pressure will get to them as well. Whereas, weirdly, I think if the pressure was off for Cardiff, they'd probably win that.
Yeah, I mean, look at Swansea, and they're top of the form table, and they've got nothing to play for, and they're just smashing teams left, right, centre at the minute. Yeah. So you never know how it's going to go, do you? A lot of people just sort of say, there's nothing you can do, wait and see. And they're probably right.
Yeah, but the thing is though, Matt, if like I say, if you before that Norwich game, I know I keep saying it might be my catchphrase for the season, but if you said to me before that Norwich game, 3 games left of the season, it's going to be in your hands to stay up, and you're out of the relegation zone. You know, I know by the time Cardiff, it might not be the case. I would have been like, what are you talking about? No,
I'd be quite happy with that now, to be honest. Never mind before Norwich. So
yeah, exactly. So I think, look, like it's very easy to predict, like to say you can predict stuff, but I wouldn't have expected Reading to be 1-0 up against Luton, who are incredibly in form, and then end up drawing the game. There is going to be some surprises. I never thought Cardiff were going to be in the conversation. I thought for me, it's a shootout between 3 teams for that final slot. I think Blackpool and Wigan are done. Wigan actually do have a good record against teams in the bottom 6, I think, around there.
They do.
Maybe they could do us a favour. But yeah, I think it's between us, Reading and QPR for that final slot. And although QPR were better last night against Norwich, I don't know. I think QPR could be the one who slips in because I just don't see them scoring enough goals. Whereas
they don't win, do they? They should have probably won last night. They should have probably won last night, and they should have probably won against West Brom. So
yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes it could be a mental thing, but and then again, you look at it and go, well, they've got bloody Willock, they've got Chair, they've got Dykes. You know what I mean? They should be winning games. So I don't know. I think if we focus on ourselves and we get the wins, then happy, and then whoever goes down.
The positive, we've lost. Yeah, the positive, we lost 1 in 7, so we've hit form at the right time.
And that loss actually doesn't look that bad now. Swansea spanked Preston and everyone before them, so it's maybe not as bad as what we thought. But anyway, mate, we've got 10 minutes left. Fire some listener questions in. So you threw some questions out, didn't you, on social media? So get some of those fired in, Rude Boy, and we'll...
Rude Boy. So, well, I suppose this was what we touched on, but Jack Natras says, given the games in hand we'll have on teams around us, how deep into the bottom 3 will we become the Cardiff game? I just think we'll be third bottom. I think we'll be third bottom.
Yeah,
that's fine. The Joanne says, will Sky ruin our last game and select it for TV? Can they TV games
no, you can't. On the last game of the season, you can't. They can put it on TV, but they can't put it at a different time to everyone else. They've all got to kick off at the same time. So it could be on TV, but it has to kick off at the same time as everyone else. I don't think it matters. But yeah, they could.
Cool. They could. But yeah, I don't think it matters. What else were we going to ask? Oh, Nick Jenkinson touching on some of the Hogg thing we said earlier, was he said, "Are we better without Jonathan Hogg in the team?" I'd say Hoggy's never going to play 46, and I think he still has his place in certain games, and I think it's just
horses for courses
based on certain game. Yeah, bit of a boring answer.
I think it's worth pointing out on Hogg though that 18 months ago ish, Carlos Corberán didn't think Jonathan Hogg was mobile enough to play midfield anymore and put him in the back line. Maybe just over 12 months ago, and once Carlos Corberán's left, he's back in midfield, and everyone's sort of suggesting that mobility-wise he's struggling a little bit. Maybe Hoggy in the back line is the genius masterstroke. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. You can never write this guy off for me. I feel like people have written him off so many times that he keeps coming. He's like the Terminator, isn't he?
Well, they write him off and he got Player of the Year next year, so you know.
Exactly. I think that's it pretty much really in terms of listener questions. Obviously, people are concerned about this season. We've got some questions about next season, like, we've got what does your retain list look like? So that's from Chris Ellis. So Chris had say, we did one for if we were in League One. But I tell you what, if we do stay up, we will do we'll do a proper one, won't we? We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do a proper podcast. There's content. It's content worthy, is that, isn't it? So we'll do something. We've got to fill the blank space somehow, haven't we? So yeah, we'll do that as and when we know what division we're in. Yeah. So Matt, I suppose that's it really for the listener questions. What I'll say to you then is there any parting messages you want to give to the Town fans? We normally do this on the warm up. Anything you want to say to them to help ease their nerves? Oh no, I'm probably the last person they want to hear from when it comes to easy nerves. Obviously, I'm the most nervous one of the lot. I think Town fans just need to keep doing what they're doing. They're making good noise in the ground. They're getting behind the players. It's working. Keep doing it. The free coaches to Cardiff's brilliant. All of them sold out, so there should be a better than usual following going to Cardiff. Pozza's moaning about having to pay his own travel expenses now, isn't he? Now we've missed out on the free coaches, so whether Pozza goes and appears, who knows? But yeah, so just Town fans, keep doing what you're doing, and it's helping. I'm sure it's helping. Neil Warnock says it's helping, so if you can ramp it up even more, do so, because I think we need everything, don't we, to get ourselves over the line. Yeah. Well said, Matt. And I'll just add to that. It's Town fans. It's in our own hands. My advice, given how I was trying to avoid the games last night when we weren't playing, never been so popular. I had like 5 different people messaging me about it. But 5. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm not that popular. But look, we're not playing on Saturday. So what I would suggest is distract yourself. Don't look at the other fixtures until the end. There's no point going through the stress of watching other teams' results coming in. Just check it when it's done, and then we can go in there. It's in our own hands. I was waiting for you to say check yourself before you wreck yourself. That seemed like a perfect opportunity for you to say something like that. And now I feel bad. Can we do it again? No, we can't. But yeah, just look, it's all to play for. Our last 2 games are at home, and this is Huddersfield Town. We never make things easy for ourselves. You should have known this by now. So let's see what happens against Sheffield United and Reading. And obviously, I did say in my drunken stupor a couple of weeks ago that I thought we would stay up by beating Cardiff because of the narrative. So let's hope that comes true. Up the Town. Up the Town.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.